Welcome to Our Frame. Tonight's story is not about a place you'd expect to feel dangerous, but about how ordinary spaces can hide extraordinary evil. In 2017, Japan was gripped by fear. What began as the disappearance of a single young woman unraveled into one of the darkest criminal cases in the country's modern history. A case so disturbing that it forced Japan to confront uncomfortable truth about loneliness, mental health, and the dangers lurking in unmoderated online spaces. This story unfolds in Zama, a quiet city in Kanagawa Prefecture, just outside Tokyo. A place of apartment blocks, train stations, and ordinary routines, until investigators open a door that should never have been opened. This is the story of the Zama Murders. At the center of this tragedy was 20-year-old AikoTamura. Aiko lived a fragile life. After finishing high school, she dropped out of further education. Following her parents' divorce, she lived with her mother, trying to rebuild some sense of stability. But in May 2017, everything collapsed when her mother died after a long illness. The loss devastated Aiko. Soon after, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she required treatment at a psychiatric clinic. Despite the physical distance between them, her older brother stayed close, offering constant emotional support through messages and calls. From his perspective, it seemed like Aiko was slowly regaining balance. Then in October 2017, she vanished. At first, there were no alarms, no signs of struggle, no farewell notes, just silence. By October 23rd, 3 days had passed with no contact. Her brother, deeply concerned about her mental state and history of impulsive behavior, decided to check her social media accounts, hoping to find some trace of where she might be. What he found made his blood run cold. On September 20th, Aiko had posted a message that read like a quiet scream into the void. I want to die, but not alone. If anyone wants to join me, message me. I'm willing to meet in Tokyo. Do you have a car? Among several responses, one stood out. A man replied that he could help, make the fear go away, that his apartment was available. 21 days later, Aiko responded, "We can do it today. I only have 1,000 yen. We can do without tools. Where are you? Are you a man or a woman?" Her brother immediately sensed danger. He reported Aika missing and shared information about the unknown man, pleading for help. After days of unsuccessful searching, police officially launched an investigation. Surveillance footage soon provided a critical lead. On October 23rd at 1:45 p.m., Aika was seen at Hachioji Station, accompanied by a man in his late 20s with shoulder-length black hair and a thin build. Together, they traveled toward Mashida, then transferred to the Odakyu line, arriving at Subudai Mei Station in Zama at 2:04 p.m. By 7 p.m., both had vanished from the station area. The case took a terrifying turn when another woman, who had also been communicating with the same man online, contacted Aiko's account. She told police she had agreed to meet him on October 30th at Subudai Mei Station. Police urged her not to go. Instead, officers prepared a sting operation. Undercover police, including Aika's brother, waited at the station. That afternoon, they spotted a man matching the description from the surveillance footage. He appeared to be waiting for someone. When he left the station, officers followed him to a nearby two-story apartment building, just 750 meters away. They watched as he entered his apartment. Police knocked. Almost immediately, an overwhelming stench poured out from inside. When the door opened, officers were confronted with a scene that defied comprehension. Aika's brother instantly recognized her white shoulder bag inside the apartment. When asked about Aika, the man silently pointed toward a cooler box. Inside the apartment, the layout was simple, but what it contained was monstrous. In the living room, police found 8 storage boxes. Inside, 7 of them were dismembered human remains. When officers opened the freezer, they discovered human heads, arms, legs, and bones buried beneath cat litter. In total, 9 victims. The bathroom was stained with blood. As so, ropes, scissors, and other tools were scattered throughout the apartment. The smell of decomposition was unbearable. One box, the 9th, was empty. Reserved for someone who never arrived. The suspect was arrested on the spot. His name, Takashiro Shiraishi. By November 9th, DNA testing confirmed the identities of all 9 victims. They ranged in age from 15 to 26. 8 were women. 1 was a man. Many had struggled with mental illness or emotional vulnerability. Japan was shaken. How could 9 people disappear over a month without anyone noticing? Who was Takesha Shiraishi? Born in October 1990, Shiraishi grew up in what appeared to be a normal household. His father worked in auto parts sales. His mother was a homemaker. But beneath the surface, Shiraishi showed signs of emotional detachment and extreme self-centeredness. He was withdrawn at school, barely visible even in class photos. After his parents divorced, he lived with his father, drifting between part-time jobs and long absence from school. As a young adult, Shiraishi attempted suicide using charcoal burning, a method commonly discussed online in Japan. Later, he worked briefly in retail and electronics manufacturing, but eventually he fell into the criminal underworld, working as a recruiter in Tokyo's Kabukicho district, luring women into the sex industry. In 2017, he was arrested for human trafficking and received suspended sentence. After returning to Zama, Shiraishi isolated himself almost completely. He spent his days online, immersed in forums and social media discussions centered around death and suicide. Japan, a country struggling with one of the world's highest suicide rates, had online spaces where despair gathered unchecked. Shiraishi exploited them. He created multiple social media accounts, some public, others private, and used them to identify people expressing suicidal thoughts. He presented himself as understanding, compassionate, someone who could help. In reality, he was hunting. His first confirmed victim was Mizuki Miura, a 21-year-old office worker who had suffered bullying and mental health struggles. After gaining her trust, Shiraishi convinced her to lend him money, then invited her to his apartment. He dragged her, strangled her, sexually assaulted her corpse, then spent days dismembering her body. The process became his routine. Over the following month, he repeated the pattern with chilling efficiency, luring victims, dragging them, killing them, and disposing of their remains. When the smell became unbearable, he tried cooking body parts to mask the odor. Neighbors noticed the stench, but blamed nearby sewage and said nothing. By the time police intervened, Shiraishi had murdered 9 people. During the trial, delayed nearly 3 years due to the complexity of the case, Shiraishi showed little remorse. "I regret killing some of the victims I spent time with," he said, "but for the others, I don't feel deep regret. My only regret is getting caught." On December 15, 2020, Takahiro Shiraishi was sentenced to death. He withdrew his appeal days later. After the case, Japanese social media platforms implemented stricter policies banning content related to suicide and self-harm. But the damage had already been done. This case remains a haunting reminder of how vulnerability can be weaponized, and how silence, indifference, and isolation can allow evil to thrive unnoticed. If you or someone you know is struggling, reaching out can change everything, even when it doesn't feel like it. Some doors, once open, can never be closed again. That's where the 9th story ends. If you found this episode meaningful, consider supporting Warframe by liking the video and subscribing for future investigations. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who might need them. Thank you for watching, and until next time, this was Warframe, and bye-bye.